Now we're going to start human impact. And we're going to talk about global warming and climate change. And don't tell me we're not going to use cars. But you came in your car. We must use more public transport, but you didn't use the Gautrain.
No, it doesn't come together.
It will. Now, it's human impact on the environment. 75 marks in your exam. 25 marks in paper, in matric. Unfortunately, some of you don't revise the symmetric. You think you know it. I want to do, you'll see in my notes, eutrophication, because you did eutrophication in grade 10. But grade 10 was such a blur, you were just so happy it went by very quickly. So I want to explain to you eutrophication, because in every matric exam they ask you about eutrophication, and then I'm going to ask you, this is a problem that has been created. And who has to solve this problem? You. So I would love to hear your logical ideas. When we mark, and especially me, I mark a logical idea. Right, so if it's what he said just now about the kidney transplant, no, logical ideas. Okay, which we must still come back to the dialysis versus transplant. Okay, I must give you a better answer on that. You must have something substantial to go into your exam and write. So I'm just remind me to put something on. Now, so eutrophication, I'm going to draw a very lovely picture for you on the board. Eutrophication, the problem was our population has been growing. Okay. And the more people there are, there's a greater demand for food. Food first, right? And so we wanted to create, and our staple food is mealies, right? Potatoes as well, right? And so what has happened, we have practiced monoculture. Monoculture is planting the same crop on the same piece of land year after year without giving the land time to restore itself, for the nutrients to replenish itself. And so eventually what has happened, we have depleted all the soil of nutrients and the soil has become barren. So we tried to make the soil fertile again. So we could not do that, so we've used fertilizer. In the fertilizer are nitrates and phosphates. Why must fertilizers have nitrates and phosphates? Oh, now you're quiet. I said I have lovely questions for you. Yes, hands up.
Yes, ma'am, sort of. Ma'am, are nitrates and phosphates used in the chloroplast to make chlorophyll?
You're asking the question, you're telling me.
I think she's asking the question.
No, not half.
Ma'am, so they're there for
They.
the nitrates and phosphates. Are they part of the nitrogen cycle because nitrogen is an organic molecule and cannot be taken in by the plants as the whole thing, so it has to be made into nitrates in order to restore the nutrients back into the soil.
Okay. Such an amazing question. So none of you know that answer.
Isn't it for the
Whoa! I found one question that none of you know. Shoo. Now everybody's asking, what's the question? Why were you looking at your nails? Right. Nitrates and phosphates are found or help in making proteins. More proteins in the soil, the plant absorbs more proteins, more growth of the plants, more yield. That is why fertilizer will always have nitrates and phosphates. Now you're not going to remember this for grade 12 because nobody's going to revise grade 10 work. So what must you do? Let's all absorb it together, or you're going to write it down. Now somebody's asking, write what down? How about you write it down? IT. I actually asked this to my grade 10s 3 years ago. And you can imagine how well they did. Yes, very well. So what you're waiting for me to give you an answer. So nitrates and phosphates Wait, is it not in my notes? I don't think I'm that cruel. Yeah, I'm that cruel. Nitrates and phosphates are found in fertilizer. Nitrates and phosphates are absorbed by the plant. Help the plants to make proteins. Proteins increase the growth of the plants. More plants, more crop. I prefer to use the word greater yield of crop. Where you got stuck there? Protein makes the plant grow more. I should have just written it out for you guys, eh? Okay, I will write it out for you. How about we stop writing now? Okay. All right. You can stop writing now, Hosi. Right. So, let us quickly revise. We learnt in grade 10 that proteins are very, very special. Proteins are the only organic compound that contains nitrogen. Nitrates, nitrogen. And you will also find phosphates as well in nitrates in the proteins. Proteins help the plant grow. So that's why fertilizers will have lots of nitrates and phosphates. Okay. And the plant grows more potatoes, more millies for you, more food. Now, there we have, this is a very, very big problem, eutrophication. I'm sure you remember eutrophication. Who remembers it? It. You remember the cloud, right? So, what happens is we add the nitrates and phosphates in the fertilizer, we add it to the soil. And what happens is the fertilizer gets washed away by the rainwater. When the fertilizer gets washed away, or the nitrates and phosphates from the fertilizer gets washed away, that process is called leaching. The leached water, which has nitrates and phosphates, gets to a nearby water source, river, dam, lake. Right? And what happens is, you all know, this is my dam. In the dam, you will always find algae, few algae. So, nitrates and phosphates will stimulate the growth of the algae. And then what happens is the algae covers the entire surface of the water. And that is known as algal bloom. Now, we have water plants in this river, dam or lake, and the algae blocks the sunlight, prevents the sunlight from reaching the plant. No photosynthesis. No photosynthesis, the plant dies. Now, that plant was responsible for producing oxygen. Okay, I'll draw it neatly. My niece says it looks like an infinity sign. That's supposed to be my fish, by the way. Does look like an infinity sign. So, no oxygen for the fish. Fish dies. But, so all the water organisms will die. I can just remember fish only now. Right? Then, when organisms decompose, what will accumulate? Decomposing bacteria. Decomposing bacteria will start breaking down the decomposed fish, plants, and further use up the oxygen. This ecosystem becomes damaged or stagnant. This process is known as eutrophication. All right. Now, as the future of the country, I'm so sorry we have made these mistakes. So can you give me logical solutions to eutrophication? And I suggest we take 2 minutes to think about this. can't remember your full name, Mesh. What's your full name, Mesh? Mashiane. Okay, sorry.
My grandmother, like when she wants to like grow, I don't know, like extra veggies or something in the garden, she uses like peels and sort of old vegetables to fertilize the soil. So couldn't we use that instead of
Yes, that's called a mulch. Yes, very good. A mulch. And now imagine now I want to grow millies. How many hectares you think we grow of millies? How are we going to have so much of fertilizer or mulch? And so lovely, lovely, lovely answer. How are you going to put that into action? Are you going to say in your school all the boys must bring their bring their peels? That is a very nice project. Actually, I think we must start off a project like that.
No, next.
Yes, next year I think we must start a project like that. First school to initiate. What? You did it last year. And how much did you collect?
When did we do this?
What did you do?
When did we do this?
They started a farm last year.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a very good idea. Very good idea. Very nice idea. So I feel I will give you a mark for that. I'm feeling, yes, it's fine. I'll give you a mark for that. Future of the country. What are your logical answers?
Instead of planting the parallel crops in like vertical rows, horizontal rows, vertical rows, it makes the soil erosion more. You plant it in horizontal, then it doesn't, the runaway doesn't.
No, it's still going to happen, darling. No. Nice try. Nice try. Nice. We'll give you a few minutes to think about it. Okay. Yes.
The problem is the use of fertilizers.
Tell them loudly. Tell them loudly. The problem is the fertilizer.
So can't we just educate farmers that when they plant and they harvest, they should leave the land so that it can.
The population is growing. If I leave that land to restore itself, it might take 3 days. Now imagine if I tell you, sorry darling, you cannot have 3 millies today, you must have a quarter of a milli. Yes. You like your food that you eat, that you have access to food all the time. Come, future of the country.
Ma'am, can't farmers plant legumes like with crop rotation? So if you are going to be planting millies, 1 year millies, are there legume plants so the nitrogen is put back into the soil?
How?
Through the nodules, bacteria nodules.
Very good. So we practice crop rotation. Now let me explain that to you because that was grade 10 work, which we know we had a very nice time in grade 10. Yes. So what we do is, I told you the problem was monoculture. So we should practice, not we, farmers should practice crop rotation. So if they have certain hectares of land, half of the land plant millies, which we all love, and then a legume. A legume, you learnt in grade 10, is any plant with a pod. Because in the roots of that plant are nodules. And in that nodule is a nitrogen fixing bacteria. Meaning that this bacteria can turn the nitrogen in the soil into nitrates. And the more nitrates there are, the plants will absorb and grow bigger and a greater yield we'll have. So, I'm going to just give the example of beans because the bean is a legume. So, the 1 year is going to plant beans, then millies. These root nodule bacteria will produce a lot of nitrates and the beans will be beautiful, big. And then what he does is the next year, he plants beans here and millies here. And those millies will have lots of nitrates. Most farmers, what they do is they just harvest the beans. The roots with the root nodules, they plow back into the ground. That is called green manuring. That is another solution. I have to tell you, I asked this 1 year in one of my papers. And one of the learners said, no, do not plant millies and crops. Build a big wall around around the crop so that the fertilizer does not leach into a river, dam or lake. Okay, don't give me those answers, guys. The key word is logical. Logical. Right, so please, we practice crop rotation. Crop rotation with a legume. And legumes have root nodules that return, that produce nitrates. Okay, they have, the nodules have root nodule bacteria, nitrogen fixing bacteria. That's part of the nitrogen cycle, grade 10 work. Then, Mashiane, he said, let's use a mulch, no problem. He's going to start that in his school. That's actually a very good idea. That you have, like how we have bins for recycling paper, we have one for your peels. Yes. What happens to all of that dirt? Eventually goes and forms part of a dump or landfill site, so we can use it. So it's actually very, very good. We just need the initiative. And maybe one of you can be that entrepreneur who goes around and starts collecting all this peels. Yes, and make it a mulch, and you can be rich one day. But do you see yourself doing that? You're the future of the country. And the other one is actually you use organic fertilizer. Right, organic fertilizer. And then what we've done now is our seeds are genetically modified. They're already pest resistant, herbicide resistant, so we do not need pesticides, herbicides. We do not need all of this. Right, we do not need to use pesticides, herbicides. Also have the same effect as on eutrophication. And we can make our seeds nutritious, right, with genetic modification. Actually, you can make your seed whatever you want. So genetic modification. You can genetically create the seed that you want. Now, that's a nice thing for the future, but we have this problem. We have all our rivers, dams and lakes that are filled with algae and are now damaged. And can I tell you something? As we are facing this 5-year drought, that is actually drinking water. We have reduced our drinking water. All it needs is somebody to go in there and just pull out the algae. That's all. So, Monday to Friday you'll be an accountant. For Saturday and Sunday you go and you work for the environment. Yes, future of the country. So everybody's looking at me. What is she talking about? I'm going to the movies. That's all it needs. Now, we have this great dam, Hartebeespoort Dam. And the alien plant that has caused the same effect is the water hyacinth. Has formed a thick mat on it, caused the plants to die. And actually you see the fish that are just floating. And has caused a lot of problems for our boatmen, because the water hyacinth clogs their boats. But it's a big dam to clear up, eh? That's all it needs. We just need people to go and remove the water hyacinth. Who is going to do that? Not me. Not the future of this country.
But Mom, we do it every Saturday
You do it every Saturday where?
at the Uber Club.
You do it.
Yeah.
So you're making your difference. Don't you want to recruit some people? There's about 31 here. So next time you are about to complain that there's no water or there's not enough food and food is too expensive, but you don't complain about it because you don't pay for it. When you start earning money and things get expensive, don't complain. Yes, don't complain. Because organic fertilizer is extremely, extremely expensive. We could just use the normal fertilizer, but you can see what's happening. And that is drinking water. And then now, because we need water, 60% of our water is recycled sewage water. Yes, you should know that. Yes, of course. Yes, you're doing this section now. So you must know that, but we could go and clean up these places. 6%. For now, 6%. Let's see how much. Who said 60? 6. 6, you heard 6. 6. Are you hearing things? Is the clown behind you? It behind you? Okay, so this is... He doesn't even know. Have you watched the movie?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Right, you must go, all of you must, tomorrow you must go and watch the movie as a group. Okay, so now, That is eutrophication. Revision of grade 10 work, very, very important. The question you will be asked in your exam this year or at the matric: how does eutrophication affect the biodiversity? We always take 2 minutes to think about our answer, because first we must know what biodiversity is. And biodiversity is a variety of living organisms. Did I say how it increases or decreases? No, I just said effect. So you will have to tell me that when the fertilizer nitrates go to the river, dam or lake, that the nitrates stimulate the growth of the algae. So eutrophication stimulates the growth of the algae. It's affecting biodiversity, making the algae grow more. But because the algae blocks the surface of the water, what does it do? No sunlight going to the plants will die, affecting the growth of the plants. But no photosynthesis, no oxygen in that water, what dies? All the water organisms and my fish die. What accumulates? Decomposing bacteria. So you have to specifically talk about biodiversity. A question they ask you a lot as well: how does eutrophication affect the quality of water? Write that down. And then this you have to answer on your own, guys. Mashani, you want to ask me a question? Okay, no problem. Which one? Second one. How does eutrophication affect the quality of water? Meaning that this water we cannot drink. Why? There's dead what? There's dead things in there. Find the words first. As I said, take 2 minutes. Want to answer? No, take 2 minutes. Take 2 minutes. Let somebody else answer. Come. Yeah. Come. You want to try? Will you drink that water? So decomposing bacteria, very, very bad. It's bacteria. It's a microorganism. We don't know what else is in that water. So eutrophication decreases the quality of water. Why? Because the algae grow and the algae cover the water, and all the organisms that have died are obviously being decomposed. For the fact that bacteria in that water makes it unhygienic, we cannot drink that water. Unless some of you like bacteria water, fungus water. Huh? Yes, Tiffany.
May I ask, with all of that, like with everything, I'm not answering the question, just side note. With with all of the bacteria and whatever in the water, does it take the nutrients out of the water that we need, like the irons and
It depends on the concentration. Yes.
So it takes it out.
Yes, and it depends on how long the dam has, or river, dam or lake has been exposed to eutrophication. Okay. So that's another nice question the examiners can ask you. Are we ready now to move on to? We are not allowed to use the word global warming anymore. Right, we are not allowed to. We were told this year in the changes to the exam guideline, you have to use the word climate change. Okay, because the geography people say that the entire globe is not becoming warm, and that is actually true. So when you are writing your answer, please write climate change and in brackets global warming.
Didn't they disprove global warming? Because there's been 5 ice ages, and to get out of the ice age, the Earth has to get dark.
Yeah, but that's greenhouse effect. We are in the period called the enhanced greenhouse effect. Okay, we need the greenhouse effect to survive, and that's the question I'm going to ask you.
That's what I'm saying. Isn't global warming natural? We're just making it worse.
We have caused it, actually. All of it is human activity.
Because there's been 5 ice ages, and you're not going to get
No. You are misunderstanding global warming from greenhouse effect.
Okay.
So don't get confused between global warming and climate change. You must know the difference between greenhouse effect, and we are in the period of the enhanced greenhouse effect. This is something in matric you need to know the difference between. So greenhouse effect. Now let's quickly talk about greenhouses. A greenhouse has glass, green, right? And it has all the optimum concentration of carbon dioxide, water, radiant energy, correct temperature, and that is how you maximize plants grow a lot. You increase the greater yield of crop or plants. And we need the greenhouse effect. We need the greenhouse effect because the earth must be habitable. We must be able to stay here. It must be nice and warm for the plants, right? If not, there was no greenhouse effect, the earth will be a snowball.